All right, hope everybody's having a Bealy good day. Welcome back to the farm. And today we're going to be talking about infrastructure. What does that mean? Infrastructure is everything that has to be put in place so that other things can work. So here in the house, this is what's called dried in. Dried in is when it's, like it sounds, dried in from the elements. So windows in, exterior doors in, roof on, exterior walls up. That's dried in. So once you get to this point and it's dried in, now it's time for infrastructure. Putting things in place so that the stuff you use works. Well, that means a lot now. Need water, running water in the house. Was in this house till 62, I think it was. Electricity. Part of infrastructure is, right now, it is super easy to get into a wall. Super easy, right? If I want to put something there and there and there and there, I mean, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, relatively easy to get to. Drill some holes, run wires to where we want to go, or run plumbing or whatever, and there you go. Come in here a few months later, spray foam, sheetrock, maybe some places we put beadboard back on the wall. Extremely difficult, right? Way harder. Biggest part of infrastructure is planning. Well, I guess nothing's cheap anymore, but much less expensive to put something in now than later. What are some things, what are the ways that we can plan for that? What are the things we can do? Well, we can run wiring. That's one thing, right? Wire relatively used to be cheap. So wire we can put in the walls, put where we think we're gonna need it, even if we don't use it. Low voltage, you don't even have to have in a box. It can be just cold in the wall for future to be able to reach it. High voltage needs a box. You can't just toss a high voltage wire in the wall long term, but you could run some extras. We could put some junction boxes under the house or in the attic, have something in the areas in case we need it. Another thing is people will run tubing, a conduit. That can be a hard conduit. It can be Smurf tubing. Smurf tubing is, you'll see it's blue or orange usually. And if I had an area, like let's say this is going to be the main TV because this is the living room. So I might want to put a piece of tubing that goes into the attic, or maybe that even goes all the way back to where the equipment's going to be. That way, if I ever needed to get something else here, I could just run it through that tubing. So there's some things we can do. Like I said, step one is planning. So we have plans for planning. Wrapped with I didn't have a rubber band, so I took one of the girls' hair ties. So here's what I do first. When I first have a project, usually I have a set of plans. So the first thing I'll do is I hand draw what I'm gonna do. Ultimately, all this will be symbols on electronic PDF, which will be printed out, and I'll be able to access it if we need to look something up. That way you can modify it as needed. But first, maybe I'm old school. I feel better drawing something out. It makes me remember it maybe better. I don't know, but I still draw it out. So, I make my own little legend over here. I was explaining to one of my daughters what a legend is. So in case you don't know, it's a symbol and a name. This symbol is always going to mean this. That way when you look at the plans, like I'm looking at the bedroom and I see a Q in a square box, I go over here, what's that? Quad outlet. Means it'll be, normally your outlet is got a top and bottom plug-in for, two of those next to each other is a quad. Then next to that, I've got an N. So I look over here, network, Cat 6. It'll have a network connection if I want to plug a laptop in directly. We don't do that a whole lot anymore. It's really usually everybody's using wireless, but still wireless is still not as fast as a plugged in connection. So, maybe I want to have that just in case. TO's TV outlet, C for coax, CN for CrestNet. I'm going to go over what some of these things are. So I go over here and I just go around the plans and just mark up wherever I think things are going. This is where TV's going. This is everything I want to go there. And we just keep modifying that until we end up with, exactly what we're doing. A lot of times when plans meet the real world, they change. So as changes happen, I'll keep an updated master set on site. Then we go around and we put boxes on the wall, so that whenever you walk around the house, you're noticing those things. You're looking, you're like, probably put a keypad, let's say I'll put a keypad here. You know, that's like that. That's the wrapper for the plans, don't judge me. So, you know, hey, this is where I'm gonna have a keypad, or maybe I'm not gonna have one there. Maybe I'm just gonna put one in the middle of the wall here, you know, wherever. So it lets you see things before the wire is pulled, because once the wire is ran, of course, that can still be modified. You can modify anything you want to up until installation. Once installation's in, if you have the bat installation, you can still modify things. Sucks, but spray foam, you're kind of stuck with it. So, we have a standard for what we use. So this is not going to have normal light switches. This will have a low voltage keypad, which will operate a centralized lighting system. I'll go more in depth on that later. But basically, what that means is it's a 1 gang box. And if you don't know what a 1 gang box is, a 1 gang box is a box that just has one space. That's a 1 gang. If it had 2 spaces, which like you've maybe seen 2 light switches next to each other, that's 2 gang, 3's 3 gang, 4's 4 gang, so on and so forth. So these are 1 gang. These are special ones that have a little gasket. The idea is to help keep it, you know, more airtight. These will be used on the exterior of the house. Another thing you have to concern yourself with is the trim work. So here's the door, right? There's a trim that goes around that door. And usually that'll be on the plans. They'll lay out, you know, some houses are real basic trim, maybe 3 inches. Some get very elaborate and they'll end up with like a 5, 6, 8 inch casing and all kind of stuff. So depends on the house and what they're doing. So I know here, we're going to use 1x4 trim because it's going to be Craftsman style. So really probably 1x3.5 or something. I could measure on the windows, find out, but we want a gap anyway. So, you know, because the casing for the door will actually come to the inside. So what I'll do is 1x4. So I would not put the box on this side. I would put it on this side to space it out. And then for measuring up, if you have a piece of the flooring that's going in, great. If you don't, then find out what it's going to be and get some sort of scrap piece of wood that's the same. I happen to have a piece, so I put that up. That's the actual finished floor. And then we can measure up to whatever we want. But with keypads, you go a little higher because they're engraved and you can read what's on them. You know, so I put them up as high as 60 to the top. Depends on how tall people are, right? We don't work for people that are 7 feet tall, so they go up a little higher or whatever. So this is all custom stuff. In our case, you know, I'm not super tall, and I'm thinking we're gonna be 54 to the top. I'll put a mark for the bottom of the box at 50 or the top at 54, just whichever one you get used to is what you do. So I'll mark it and write it in, and it'll be ready. Now it just so happens that this wood, you know, where it came in and teed, so there for the wall going that way, it's not quite deep enough, but this is low voltage. So actually I will not even have to put a fully sealed box up here. So these are screw up low voltage rings. It's the same thing as those, except they're open, see? So you can put low voltage in these. You cannot use these for high voltage. So there we go. Boom. These keypads only need, it's not even 2 inches of depth from the front. So plenty of room. And then that'll be ready to go. And then it's got that handy dang little spot to tie the wire to. And there you go. Basically 3 different type of boxes we'll be using. Single gang low voltage for any device that's low voltage that takes up 1 gang. Single gang high voltage. This could also be used for low voltage, but we don't have to use that. But this will be for any high voltage. In this house, that means pretty much only outlets. I don't think I have anything high voltage single gang other than outlets, but we'll see. 2 gang, so, you know, double outlets or an outlet, and some spaces we'll see we'll have 2 gangs. We're using USB chargers that take 110 volt to them, and then they're USB, so you don't have to have the little wall warts, as we call them, the little bricks to charge your phones. You just plug the USB right into the wall. So those will be in 2 gangs. So you'll see those throughout the house as we go along. I made a general mark at 54 inches for the top. I will have a tape measure and actually put it exact when we screw them up, but that's just to give us a general idea. Now you see on this one, I wrote KP in marker and sprayed the green over it. So you're in here, you're working, you're doing your job, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty easy, it's visible, right? Now let's do something that requires a little more work. So 1x4 trim, that's 3 3/4, because let's sell somebody something, that's not what it really is, but whatever. So that only gives us 1 inch to where the box would be. But the keypad doesn't just fit, slap up against just inside the keypad, inside the 1-gang box. It's bigger, it'd just be all tight and everything. So this is an example where we're going to scab on a piece of wood. So we got one of the spare 2x4s that the framers were so kind to leave. Now if you're smart, so the opposite of me, then you figured most of this out, and if you're doing this part yourself, you had the framers do this, or maybe borrowed their nail gun, but like I said, I'm not. So I'm using screws. I've got nails also, but I like screws in case something changes, I want to move it. So I know this side is what I'm going to put to the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill the screws a little bit, but I'm going to put them at a little bit of an angle so I can get in there well to it. Okay, now let's see if I can set y'all up. See something? Our piece of 1x4 trim up here, which will be 3 3/4, and now we got 6 1/4. So that leaves us 2.5 inches, which will be a nice little space. There you go. So somebody asked me about the siding, and yes, the original siding is staying. We went back and forth on this, and eventually I may regret it, but I'm gonna tell you, as much as we took this house down to, if I took all the siding and everything off too, honestly, I would have just dismantled the house and completely, and just used all the wood and stuff for building another house or something. It became ridiculous. So had to draw the line somewhere, and we drew the line on taking all this off. So but it's in pretty good shape. We replaced pieces where needed to be with the original that we took off the addition that had to get torn down. So it'll be pretty good after we clean it up and paint it. There's still some spots we got to do a little bit of repair on. Something else someone asked me about was the original septic. So the septic for this house was hand dug by somebody in the early 60s. I got the story from the kid that used to be here that's now like 70. It was hand dug. It had been in use up until the house was abandoned. I'm guessing now, I think it was around 4 years ago or so. But no, we're not reusing it. We're putting in a new system, which is originally why we were putting the road to the back, because when they came out, that's where they said we were gonna have to pump it to the back and all that. And for some reason, no one ever checked over here. So over here in that area, they came back out and did a new test, and we are going to be able to put the septic over there. So the new septic will go there, and so that's what's going on with that. Question was about the house, which originally we were going to build a whole separate structure. The exact plans of what we're going to do are on hold, mostly because building materials are through the roof, and it's not just the wood. Everyone's focused on the lumber. Electrical wire has doubled. It's just stupid. Someone's got to get control of this stuff. So the consensus is it's a short-term problem. So our plan is we're moving in the 1910 house. We'll live here and keep an eye on things, and not only with pricing and all that, but hey, how are we using the property, all that kind of stuff. Maybe the economy stays strong and prices for materials go down, and maybe we build something in the back, since that turned out so nice. So we'll see. But regardless of which decision's made, it will be there will be more space needed. So that's going to be happening one way or another. We'll go through, get up rocks, and yeah, try and get the bigger sticks and things out. Then once the grass is established, we'll be running a bush hog around through here.
Why is all the water yellow?
Maybe carry the whole family. Yeah.